it's your girl Steph, and we are live with a new season of The Best Is Yet to Come. I am so excited tonight. I have a wonderful guest in the studio with us, and I just want to thank all my followers and my supporters for this opportunity that God has blessed me with, or blessed us with, because it's not just about me, it's about you all, as you know. So I just want to thank everyone that has been on this journey with me, and I'm so super excited that we are starting a new season. And tonight's guest, what can I say about this woman? I don't know. There's not enough words to describe her and to help you to understand who she is, but it is my hope that at the end of the night, you would know much more about her. Welcome, Miss Reed Barnes.
Thank you for having me tonight. It's an honor to be here tonight with you.
Yes. Yes. Actually, before we get into the show,
Okay.
I would like to present you with something.
Oh,
This is just a little token of my appreciation, not just to be on the show, but just to be the woman that you are and the things that you do unselfishly. So here's to you.
thank you very much. Thank you. Oh, it's a queen cup. It says Sister Queen, beautiful, amazing, delicate, courageous, dedicated, a fierce conqueror, overcomer, and I'm honored to call you my Sister Queen.
Look at the name on the back of it. You know, I believe in
Dr. Reed Barnes.
That's right.
Thank you so much, baby. Thank you so much. I love you. Thank you. This means the world to me. Wow.
Can I just share this with the audience also? This cup was made by a dear friend of mine, Asia Creation. So one day she will be on the show as well. Okay. So let's get this show.
Thank you, Asia Creation.
Yes, that's excellent work.
Okay, I'll set this down here.
Righty. So, where do we begin? Let's talk about some of the things that you're doing in the community.
Okay, so where do we begin? So what I do in the community is I'm an advocate for human trafficking and sexual exploitation. So where I began was I wanted to help people just like me. I wanted to help people who come from dark backgrounds and who have suffered in their life. And so when I finally was able to get away from all the atrocities that happened to me, like domestic violence, human trafficking, sexual exploitation, prostitution, I knew that the best way for me to overcome, or I felt the best way for me to overcome, would be to go back and help those who had suffered it as I had. And so, and to help people from my hood who were caught up in drugs and alcohol. And so that's how I began this work.
Now, I know I call you the ambassador for human trafficking because you may be here today, tomorrow you may be in another country.
Right.
How does that work into your busy schedule? Because one of the things that I do know, and the audience will learn too, that you have so much going on. I mean, I always tell you need to be cloned because I don't know how you do it all. So can you please,
Ooh.
how do you balance it all out?
I honestly have to say the balance comes from working one day, one thing at a time. It's like, I don't know. I just feel like I'm blessed to be able to compartmentalize what I need to do and just do really, really, and truly. It's one thing, one day at a time. And so my work is, it's my job, actually. So I work in the field. I'm actually a master's level social worker. I'm a doctoral student. And so, yeah, soon to be a doctor. 2 more years, girl. And so my work day just begins. I feel like if my day is not crazy, then I'm not being effective, right? And so I wake up in the morning, I get dressed, I go to work. I work at Pine Street Inn at Shattuck Hospital in men's stabilization, and I'm the group clinician there. So I got to keep a little bit of that clinical stuff going. And so from there, I get off of work and I immediately hit the ground running. And I work for an organization by the name of RIA Incorporated, it's Ready Inspire Act. And that is my life's work, my passion. Like they ever say, you ever heard the saying, like, you never work a day if you're doing something that you love to do? And so that's what happened to me at RIA Incorporated. I started at this organization, I think it was almost now, I want to say almost 7 years ago. And I started there as an intern, because it was an organization that helped women who had experienced some kind of sexual exploitation or human trafficking or who had been prostituted. And I was like, wow, all these other organizations, they're either for substance use disorders or for mental health, but there was no organization that was directly, that I knew of, because now I know there's plenty of organizations. Matter of fact, I network with a lot of organizations who help women or people who've been trafficked or exploited. But at the time in my life, I wasn't aware of that. And so I have to give a shout out to Audrey Morrissey, because I had done a group with her at a group home for troubled girls, and after we did that group, I was like, wow, I was like so amazed with the work she was doing with the girls, and the fact that she was working at an organization called My Life, My Choice, and that they were really dealing with the population that I felt like was not getting enough recognition or help or services. And so I wanted to deal with, because like I'd done a whole lot of other things, but I felt like there wasn't enough work being done around people who've been exploited or trafficked right here in Massachusetts. There wasn't, so that's how I started.
I'm sorry for cutting you off, but doing some research, I did not realize that we are considered to be number 25 in the country
Right.
for human trafficking.
Right.
There's not enough work that's being done.
Right. So it's a multi-billion-dollar industry, right? Let's just keep it real. Sex sells, right? And so because sex sells, this is what we're getting, right? And so unfortunately, I'm on the side of where, of course people have a right to do whatever they want to do with their life. That's up to them. But I am not for that. Like, having experienced what I experienced, I know that there's more to it than all the glitter and the glamour or all the money. You know what I mean? They call it the oldest profession in the world. I see it as the oldest oppression in the world. They call it the oldest profession in the world. I see it as the oldest oppression in the world. And so I was talking with somebody earlier today, as a matter of fact, and I didn't even, like, when I first was told that I was like a victim, or that I had been gaslighted, or that I was brainwashed, I couldn't even wrap my brain around it, because it becomes a norm. It comes when you're brainwashed, or when you're tricked, right, into a way of life, and you come from such a dark background or in so much dysfunction, then the bad things always felt better. But somehow, some way, I always knew in my heart of hearts that I wanted to do something different with my life. Like, I always did want to be a good person. I didn't want to be perfect. I just wanted to be a good person. I wanted to be happy. I don't think I signed up or ever thought as a child that I wanted to grow up and be abused or neglected, and not that my childhood was completely that. Like I need to be clear, because I have a book out. I have this book out, and it's my autobiography, and it talks about the trauma that I suffered as a child. But I did have some loving and caring adults in my life who were also role models, who showed me that there could be a different way of life. But unfortunately, the way that I was living and some of the people that I was subjected to didn't allow that. So, and I like bad stuff. I like things. I have addictive behavior, right? So I like anything that looks good, tastes good, feels good, And so I went with it, and so that's how I, ultimately got, that's another piece of how I got caught up into the life. But most of it is because I was, I was frauded into believing that, this is okay, and it really wasn't.
Let me ask you a question. Something you just said that you like anything that tastes good, all the bad things. Where do you think that came from? Because I always say when we look at people that are suffering from something, whether it be addiction, mental health issues, well, not necessarily mental health issues, but addictions, like the sexual trafficking, the things that you said that you thought were, you like the bad things. Where do you think that came from? Because I feel like, we don't wake up one day and just say, oh, this is what I want to do with my life,
Right. Right.
So would you say, is it safe to say that it was an escape, where you thought it would be an escape from something else that you were dealing with? Or?
I want to say, it's a lot of things. I think, you ever heard of thrill-seeking? Like, okay, so I think that had played a big part in, like, me as a teenager, because I got turned out or, introduced to the streets when I was like 14 years old, right? And so it was all about like having the need to fit in or belong or be with the in crowd, like, because it started out like drinking and smoking marijuana to like skipping school, and then, next thing you know, I'm drinking, I'm trying this drug or that drug or whatever. And it was just like, first it was like the thrill of getting away with something, you know what I mean? Like being able to, feel my oats, if you will, like to do whatever I want, like just to be defiant against the elders in my life, or just to do, just to call myself wanting to have fun, because in my world where I grew up at, that was fun. That was fun. Hanging out, going to block parties, going to house parties. You remember that, right? The hip-hop world, like doing all these things. That was a way to have fun, wearing all the designer clothes and stuff like that. That was a way to have fun. And so it was really like thrill-seeking and looking for love in all the wrong places.
You said something, I want you to explain what that means to our audience, gaslighting.
Okay, gaslighting is like brainwashing, like when people trick you into believing something that's not true. Like they make you believe that it's okay to do bad things, right? So I was 14 years old, and my boyfriend, of course, told me that that he loved me, right? And he said, if you love me, you'll do anything I ask you to do. And so, of course, that was the thing to do. And even after the first episode or incident, right, I knew that it was wrong, and I felt horrible about it. And he didn't make it any better, because when I went back and after I actually followed through with the act, he abused me. The abuse is comes 90% with that way of life. Like no matter whether it's mental, physical, spiritual, the abuse comes immediately with it. Because well, for me it did. I immediately got in my head with the shame and the guilt, and the sorrow, and but once you cross that, it's something about once you cross that line, it's almost like there's no coming back from that, and so I was just locked and loaded after the first one, and then of course I didn't like it. I never liked it. That was never my thing. I never got a kick out of it. But of course, we got to put up the facade and play the role, because you have to make money, and so I did what I had to do, and because of me doing what I had to do for looking for love, right, trying to keep that love of mine, right, I turned to drugs and alcohol, because it helped lessen the pain, right? It helped suppress the thoughts and like black out whatever the damage that I was doing to my life. It just really helped me a lot to just like be able to continue in a way that was not okay, but wasn't as painful, because the drugs medicated the reality, like it really, yeah. Honestly, I feel like it amplified it. Yes, yeah, because it falls, liquor gives folks false courage, right? So when I get drunk, I can really play that role, like I can really act out and blah blah blah, and I love this, and you should, and this is the life, and this is fun, and yeah, it was really bad, it was really bad.
What was liquor the first drug of choice, and how was the progression?
I would say marijuana was the gateway. Okay, and if I got to be honest, I think like when I was about like 6 or 7 years old, I want to say cigarettes, right? because me and my cousins, well, I was the youngest, one of the youngest cousins, growing up in Columbia Point, you know, and now Harbor Point, you know, and we used to play out in the field over there on Monticello Avenue, and we used to steal our parents' cigarettes and smoke the cigarettes. So it started cigarettes, and then, you know, went to private stock, then y'all go sangria, you know, then we tried the weed. So it was a slow progression. And I come from a family of alcoholics and addicts too, so drinking excessively was a norm in my family. Mm-hmm.
But back to the cigarettes, there are a lot of families that would tell the children to go light the cigarettes off the stove. I've heard plenty of people.
I remember doing it.
That started smoking, going to light their parents' cigarette, and not that they were supposed to pull on it, inhale.
Right.
But how do you light it? You know.
Right. Well, as a child, I remember my elders we used to always have house parties in the projects, right? So like all the adults would come to our apartment and they'd be drinking, and we used to be able to like you know, they would call us the children into the living room for entertainment, and everybody wanted to be the Jackson 5, right? Right. So we're all coming in there doing our thing, and they would let us have the beer that was on, you know, or we would sneak the wine, or when we had to clean up, we'd drink what was left over, or whatever. So I remember those days as well.
I was sharing with someone not too long ago, because I was raised in the South, but I used to come up here and visit. My mom was actually here, and I had family here. And it was okay for Christmas for us children to drink on Christmas Eve. And I can remember at my aunt's house and bouncing into the walls because I guess I had too much to drink, and I was maybe 14. Yeah. So that is, you know, in a lot of cultures that is... Okay.
It starts at a young age, and then it gets out of control. But some cultures, I've seen some cultures where they teach their children, or they allow their children to drink, and they teach them to drink in moderation, and so it doesn't happen. But unfortunately for me and my family, it didn't work like that. We drank to get drunk.
Now, so you're 14. Now, was that the first episode, because you just mentioned the episode, were you at the age of 14, or how old were you at the first episode that you just kind of talked about, that after it happened, the abuse began with your boyfriend?
Well, I was raped as a child first. So when you're raped as a child, the first thing that comes up, like low self-esteem for me, it was low self-esteem, self-worth, and blaming and all that for me. Like as a child, like it damaged me. You know, it really, really done severe damage to me. So I was 6 years old when I was, when I was sexually exploited. You know, I was raped. And so, and I took full responsibility for that. I took it on me as a 6-year-old. Can you imagine, right? I took that on as like it's my fault because like adults used to say, like, you know, they used to say, like, call you the fast act, you know, and say, you know, little things, and and I had an infatuation with like different cartoon characters, I want to say, you know, and then I had cousins that like they taught me, and we used to watch the show Superfly and all that kind of stuff, right? And so they had an infatuation with pimps and prostitutes, and so, of course, you know, so did I. You know what I mean? But I was too young, you know, to understand all that, you know. So at the age of 6 years old, when I moved from my biological family to my foster family, and then I was raped, then the game changed. Like it really messed me up, you know. And so self-worth set in at 6 years old. So, and it went on for quite some time. So by the time I got to high school, and I was it went on for some time, but I was able to get away. Let me see. It's 6 years old. I was able to move out of that house, and I want to say 10 going on 11. So by the time I was 11, when I got to like middle school, I was able to like really be away from my abuser, suppress, run track, try to live a normal life, try to be a good girl, and through middle school. But by the time I got to high school, of course, you know, I met the boy, you know, and of course, you know, I thought he was handsome. He was a handsome dude. You know, he was a nice dude. You know, everything a teenager dreams of. my Prince Charming. God.
It's funny that you say that you took on that. In our last season, I had a show on that, and a lot of victims feel like, what did I do?
Right.
I could have did this different. On one of the episodes, I was talking about this gospel group. It was a bunch of sisters, and each of them, well, maybe 3 or 4 of them had been molested. And I remember one telling the story that she had actually, her mom had sent her into her uncle's room, who was drunk, to give him his dinner, and he raped her in the house with her siblings and others.
Right.
And her first response was, what did I do? What could I have done different? Even as an adult, she still looked back on that situation and wondered what could have done different. What do you say to victims when they want to take on something that is not their fault?
I say that it's not your fault. You are not what happened to you, and you can be better for your experiences. You know, it's not something easy. It's not going to happen overnight. I suggest that anybody who experiences something like that, that you definitely, pain shared is pain lessened. And so if you can get to a safe place and tell somebody that you know and cares about you, and get to a doctor and get checked out, then do that. But we are not what happened to us. It's not our fault. There's no way, you know, like a child can give consent to an adult to take advantage of them in the ways that I was taken advantage of, you know. And I held that for a long time. Like, for a long time, like, I was so embarrassed and ashamed. So that was another reason, like, for me to write the autobiography, because I was like, I got to share with other people to let them know that they are not alone, that this is not, this thing is happening, and it's happened to me, and I want to be a vision of hope for you, to show you that we don't have to stay, you know, oppressed or down because of, you know, our trauma or drama or whatever's happened to us, our life experiences. We can be better for our experience. We must, you know. And so it's just ironic that you say that, too, because, like, for a lot of years I held that, and the person who raped me as a child for a long time would see me coming and going, like, all my life, and never apologize to me. And, like, I had a huge resentment for that. And I was like, how can you act like a family member or a person who's supposed to be close or connected to me, and you won't even say you're sorry? I understand people have their stuff too, and that they have their addictions, or they have their trauma, or they have their issues, right? But I'm sure, well, I can't be sure, but I want to say that I'm sure that every person gets a moment of clarity at some point in time. And in those points in times, you know, when do you make amends or apologize for the things that you have done wrong to people? You know, but sometimes people don't think they've done anything wrong. And I feel like that's what happened. Like, I learned through therapy that no matter what I think, it doesn't mean that you're going to think that, or that my abuser's going to think that. I knew that my abuser didn't think that. And so I carried that, like, all of my life. I'm 55 years old. I carried that since 6 years old. And so finally, this year, I was able to say to my abuser that, you know, I forgive you for what you've done. And he was like, what? I said, what you done to me when we was kids. And he was like, oh, I was a kid too. I said, that's not what I'm talking about right now. Right? I was 6 and you were 12 or 13, right? It wasn't okay, and I want you to know that it had an effect on my life for the rest of my life until this day that I'm standing here before your face. And he said, you're right, and I'm sorry.
Then did you feel that it was a genuine?
Yes, I did. I felt like it was genuine. It was very genuine. But at that time, it was like the little girl came back into the room, and it made me cry, because it was like, finally, I get some kind of, because I don't really want to call it closure, because I don't feel like it was closure, but I got some kind of relief from something that was holding me for so long. Yes. And so, and in order for me to continue to grow and to flourish, then I have to forgive. You know, I won't forget, you know, but I forgive, and I sincerely forgive them, you know. And so, but it damaged me. Like, it just set something off of me that made it okay for that by the time I turned 14 for me to allow this person to turn me out and have me do some things that I didn't like to do, that I didn't want to do. And so I'm so glad for the grace of God, yeah, that I made it out, you know, because it wasn't easy. For a long time I wanted to die that way. You know, I thought I would definitely die. I've been left for dead a couple of times. I've been in multiple hospitals. I've been in multiple institutions. Yeah, I have multiple broken bones and fractures and all kinds of things wrong with me. Multiple concussions. I've been stomped out, dragged, shot at, stabbed. I've been stabbed like 5 times. Like, so a lot of stuff, you know, just over the years, just been so. I was so glad finally. 12 years ago, I made a decision that it's over, you know, and so to March 19th of this year, I'll have 12 years clean and sober. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. You talked about all the physical and mental abuse that you went through. Can you share with our audience, a lot of times it's the person that say they love us, that
right.
we believe.
That we feel most safe with.
Right,
that,
right.
of course it is. Domestic violence was the ultimate, right? And then, like, they would just, it starts first, when a person first disrespects you, calls you out of your name, then right there, that's the biggest red flag. When someone, like, my mother did not name me the B word, the C word, the whatever word, right? My mother named me Stacey Jory, right? So if you're not calling me honey, baby, or boo, or sugar, or sweetie, then, and you call me these other names, right, then, you know, it's going to go down here real quick, you know. And so it started with a slap, and then the slap turned into a punch, then the punch turns into a kick, spit on, drag, you know, broken nose, broken ribs, you know, fractured arms, you know, hair pulled out in sockets. I remember for a time in my life, some of my survivors can confirm that, you know, they used to, like, my nickname in downtown Boston on the track was Panda, right? Because my man punched me in my face so many times that I always had black eyes. Yeah, and so, and every time he beat me up, you know, just to make up sex, right? I'm sorry, it's your fault if you didn't talk to me like this, or if you made enough money, or if you paid the rent on time, or if you didn't go to your family's house, or if you didn't talk to that girl, then I wouldn't have hit you, or I'm sad if so-and-so didn't do this to me, then, you know, they're always, you know, the abuser is a trip, right? And so they're sick people. Yeah, of course, of course. You know, I'm sitting there with a black eye, and I'm consoling him for beating me, because that's all part of the game. That's all part of how domestic violence works. You know, they're there to make you believe that it's your fault, that they're abusing, when it's not our fault. It's their fault. You know, you keep your hands to yourself. You don't want me to hit you, don't hit me.
Now, speaking of that, did you ever find yourself in being the abuser?
Oh, of course, because we take on what happens to us, right? We take on what happens to us. I remember getting into a healthy relationship and having a man finally respecting me, and just talking to him all reckless. Want to call him out of his name, want to berate him, belittle him, and because I had for a long time, domestic violence does this to us too. I know for me, from getting beat since a child, that I thought that if somebody didn't hit me, they didn't love me. So I equated love with abuse. And so any relationship that I got into, if the man didn't yoke me up, slap me, snatch me, then you don't love me. You ain't, I'm doing these things on purpose, and you're not, like, reprimanding me. Like, I can't be raised again. I don't need another father. Like, really? Like, and so it just became a norm. It became something natural for me. And so, but after a while, it gets old, baby. It gets old. And if you can't respect me, and if you can't keep your hands to yourself, then I don't think this is going to work.
And when did it get old for you?
It got old for me, actually, it got old for me a long time ago, way before just 12 years ago. It got old for me. I believe it really got old for me when I had my last child. I have 4 children, right? So, I think my youngest son is 25 years old. So it got old for me like 25 years later, even though like his father he wasn't physically abusive. Now let's talk about it. We're going to get into that. The mental abuse, the disrespect and stuff like that. I think sometimes that's worse. Sometimes I prefer, I used to say, because I don't prefer anything, let me be clear, right? Sometimes I prefer for you to say something to me. I mean, I used to say, I prefer for you to slap the hell out of me than to say what you say, because words stick forever. So the verbal abuse was there, and so 25 years ago after we parted, I was good with that.
Now, you're an author.
Yes, ma'am. Ooh,
Well, I know you said you
right.
wanted to put your story out there to
Right.
help others. How long did it take you to write this, and why Stacy's Joy?
Okay, so writing my book, this is my book, Stacy's Joy. So if I can be real transparent and keep it really real with you, I knew that when I got clean this time around that I wanted to do something good with my life. And I knew in order to be successful and to really do what I need to do and to achieve my dreams and goals, that I had some skeletons and some ravens in the closet, right? And so I said, let me get ahead of, because I'm watching social media, and every time somebody gets to a certain point in their life, what happens is there comes the imp in the mist, right? And they say, oh, she did ha ha ha, right? Or he did ha ha ha. So I said, let me get ahead of the ha ha ha's. Let me just go on ahead and, tell my story before somebody else does. So that was right. So that was the first reason why I wrote the book, because I knew that I was serious about turning my life around. And that was the first thought, because I'm just keeping it real, right? So that was the first thought. And then the second thought came from the passion that I have to do the work as a peer mentor and advocate for people who've been sexually trafficked or prostituted or exploited, right? I needed those women, those girls. I was really talking to a little girl to let her know that we can be better for our experiences. So I wrote my book to first work through the trauma of the murder of my mother. My mother was murdered when I was 7 months old, and not being able to have that relationship with my biological mother. I want to really get that part of the story out, because through therapy I learned that, all those kind of things, the things that happen to us throughout our childhood do affect our adulthood. And so at first I didn't believe that. I was like, oh no, we got choices, blah, blah, blah. No. I can remember all my life until I first set foot on my mother's grave that I had a longing and I missed my mom, and so, yeah, it affected me immensely. Even though God put 2 more women in my life to be my mother, there's nothing like your biological mother. Well, for me, let me just talk about me. For me, there was nothing like my biological mother, and I grew up with a big hole, like something missing in my life, and a resentment kind of towards my siblings, because they knew how she sounded, they knew how she smelled, they had her hugs and kisses, they knew her, and then I was robbed of that. And I feel like, so I held that for a long time. And so in order to work through that therapeutically, I needed to write about it. I needed to share about it in therapy. I needed to get honest with the folks that I need to get honest with, so they can see, so they can understand, where some of my bitterness or my anger or my resentment was coming from. Because it was about me really healing, not just on the outside, but in the inside as well. Mm-hmm. She was, her death certificate says multiple stab wounds to the chest. They couldn't even count how many times she was stabbed. And so, and that also contributed to the domestic violence too, because in my life, because I felt like, you have to be with somebody who hurts you if they truly love you, to show you that they truly love you. Hmm?
I know when I read the book, as I shared with you, I couldn't read it all at once, mm-hmm. because it opened up some of my stuff. Right. That it forced me to deal with, that I had not forgotten about, but I put it back there, and I had so many different emotions. Mm-hmm. I, cried. I got angry. I mean, I'm one of those people. If I'm with you, I'm with you.
Right.
It was like, it just really did something to me. So it took me some time to read it, and it's definitely a good read. You wrote a letter to your mom. Am I correct?
Right. Well, I wrote a letter about her passing. Yeah, something. Yeah. Actually, it's in her first chapter. It's in her first chapter, and it's on page. Let me see here. Yeah, it's actually on page 17.
Could you please read it to the audience?
Sure. I gotta put my glasses on because I can't see. Don't mess up my glasses, girl. So it says, on February 12th, 2020, I wrote, "Dear Mommy, today is the day that my mother died. I found it very hard to sleep. I tossed, turned, and often cried. We never got a chance to meet. I must move on, push past the pain. My heart's on overload. I lost my mom. Please understand, I was just 7 months old. 53 years later, can you believe she is still heavy on my mind? Consoled by others, stories I've been told, she was definitely one of a kind. Cursed through her passing, she was not here, been through a lot of crazy mess. After gaining acceptance, a guardian angel, somehow I am truly blessed. Time to move on. That's what they tell me. That's what we're supposed to do. No more anger or resentments. Too many years gone. Those feelings were not so cool. So on this day, beloved, dear Mommy, I humbly pay respect. Rest on, my sweet angel. I love you so much. This is a day that I will never forget." Thank you. So every year I repost that on my Facebook page, Stacy Reed Bonds on Facebook, and I go to her gravesite and I have my little conversation, say my little prayer, and because that's for me now. That's closure, So yeah.
Now, as you was reading, you said about acceptance. Who were you looking for acceptance from, and did you feel that you had that?
No, okay. So in that poem, acceptance means I accepted like what happened. I can't change that she's gone. I can't bring her back. So I have to have acceptance around that in order to heal or move forward, right? So I accept it because I can't change it, right? Much like the serenity prayer. God grant me serenity to accept the things I cannot change. I can't change that she's gone. The courage is, God grant me serenity to accept things I cannot change. Courage to change things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. So I know the difference now. I know the difference in that I don't need to be resentful, angry, sad, or mad that she's gone, but I need to accept that she's not here in person, but for me, and this is just my stuff, right? That she's here in spirit, like she is my guardian angel, So. Mm-hmm.
I can relate to that. People may think this is so strange. I can relate to that. I've had many people to pass that were very close to me. My mom a couple of years ago, my grandparents who raised me, but nothing hurt me and I even lost a child. Nothing hurt me like the loss of my brother.
I'm so sorry.
Yes. I mean, it's been over, 20 years?
Oh, wow.
I've, gotten over it, but
Right.
It took some time for me to do that. And when it comes to grieving, this is something I tell people, that don't allow anyone to put a time frame on your grievance of what that should look like.
Right.
Because we each grieve differently.
Right.
But do you find that people
Right.
try to say, "Oh, you should be over it now," or "It's going to be over"?
People pretty much know not to do that with me about my mother.
In general,
But yes, I've had people say, "Oh, you haven't dealt with that yet, whatever, And sometimes, I believe in the cliches that I hear in AA and NA, right? When they say we got to live and let live, let go and let God. We got to let people be where they're at. So I don't share a lot, like we're having a conversation now. I don't go up to everybody and say, "Oh, my mother's gone. I'm so upset. I'm so sad." I don't do that, But around the time of her anniversary, I acknowledge it, the anniversary of her death and her birthday and Mother's Day and stuff like that. So when I notice people who like are not sensitive to like how I feel about it, then I just stay away, because we got to really let people be where they're at. Because here's the hit. The hit is that I'm not going to let nobody measure how I mourn my mom or how I love my mom. I had a friend on Facebook one time that said something really mean, and I just deleted her. Like, we don't have to be Facebook friends, girlfriends, because like she said something that was really mean about like the people being dead and just gone and just let it go, and that there's no happy birthday in heaven. That's what she just said, right? And I was like, Jesus, take the wheel. She lucky we on the phone, because if I was there in person with her, I would have probably like really got upset. And I'm not a super violent or big bad, whatever. But it was hurtful that she said that. And we got to be sensitive to people's feelings and let people feel how they want to feel and live how they want to live. We're living in a world where there's too much control. Like, let live and let live. Like, leave people alone. Like, let them have their feelings. And that's where, by work, because we'll find a way to, work through through our trauma and heal in an effective way if we just had a little more positive people in the world, right? If you can't, I like that phrase, if you can't say something nice, don't say nothing at all.
Right. Mm-hmm. Do you feel, you're just speaking about, letting people heal, do you find that sometimes people go through their healing and they want to project or point a finger at someone who has not made it quite there yet?
I'm thinking, I try not to be bothered with people like that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Your process is your process, and my process is going to be my process. Like, okay, so, like, I work with women who've been trafficked or exploited or prostituted right here in Boston on Mass and Cass, right? So just because I'm a woman in recovery now and I'm moving past, my trauma and I'm doing all my things, doesn't mean that I have a right to go and pick up one of my girls and say, oh, get over it, you got to get better, oh, it wasn't that bad, it's not that bad. That's not okay. People are not going to listen anyway. People are going to be bothered with you. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, she's mean, she's evil. That's not right. She's not sensitive to whatever I'm going through. And I can't be a mentor and a role model for women like me if I'm doing that. Like, just because I'm in a place in my life where I've moved past some things doesn't mean that, everybody else has to be. But the goal is to try to help them to do that, though. So if I can just be with them in the moment and just sit, work along or sit alongside or just be with them, then sometimes that just has to be enough.
Now, how do you reach, you just mentioned Mass Cass, and we know what that's about.
Right.
I actually do provide some service there,
mm-hmm.
and it's more on the base of harm reduction,
right.
which I was very aware of harm reduction,
mm-hmm.
but to be up close and personal,
mm-hmm.
not as I am now.
Right.
How do you reach people when they are there?
So, first of all, I reach out to those who are reaching out. So if they don't want to be bothered, you don't bother them, right? But if they want some help or they just want some, company or friendship or whatever, that's what I do. So I just meet them where they're at. I definitely believe in harm reduction. I believe in MATs, which is medically assisted treatments. I believe in, people that you can't just shut addiction off like a switch, right? And so the opposite of addiction is connection, right? And so if I can start that connection with the person with the mentees, then that sometimes that's all we need, right? And then eventually over time, right, and we're not being judgmental and and crazy with them and showing our biases and talking down to them and treating them bad, then eventually they grow from that. So I can honestly say I've been working in the field. I've been working in the human service field for over 25 something years, right? But I've been working in the human trafficking and sexual exploitation field for about 7 years. And I can say, honestly, I can think of 5 women right now that I met when they was the epitome of their disease or in their life or being trafficked, who are now super successful, right? Who are women who have reunified with their children, gotten their own place, highly educated, they have their own homes, their cars, you know, and they're living fulfilling and happy lives. And so, but it didn't happen overnight, trust me. I had a whole lot of nights where I answered the phone 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. Then I went to different hospitals or trap houses to pick them up. A trap house is a place where people get high. Yeah. Yeah, so I don't highly recommend that we just go out there and do all that, but you know, I trusted God, and I, you know, had my husband, you know, which I'm married now, right, as a support to come with me out to those places when I needed to do like a check-in or a rescue or whatever. You know, there's times when I have to call the ambulance, to call the police or stuff like that, you know, to help the survivors, and it's really like, it's amazing, like it's so rewarding. Like I feel like, honestly, sitting here, I feel like, you know, I've done a good job because I've helped women who were suffering so tragically, right, to get to a place in their life to where they're happy now, you know. And when I asked one of the women that I mentored for a while what it was that made a difference in her getting her life together, she was like, you listen to me. You answer my phone call every time, and you listen to me. And as much as I talk, I can't believe she said, I listened to her. And then listening to her, and in me listening to her, she said she felt loved and appreciated. And now this woman I think she's like 3 or 4 years clean and reunified with all her children and got her own place, driving a nice car, got a good job in school. She's just doing the thing. And this is a woman that I've known who couldn't stay clean or get her life together for like 5 years. I know her from overdosing and all this stuff, and now look. So I had to ask her because I'm like so proud of her. Like I'm really on my soapbox about, like, I get so passionate, and I love these women because I see me in them, you know, and I see that, you know, and they help me to understand that every life matters. Right, and that we're not just some throwaways because we made bad choices or we made bad decisions, and that, you know, we do deserve another chance at this thing called life, and we deserve to live our best life too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What do you think, because our platform here is not just to give, you know, like you and I having this dialogue, and it's a great dialogue, but there may be somebody out there that say, where can I go? I'm tired of this life. Can you provide what's out there, what's available to them?
Sure. So where can you go? I'd suggest first that you go to the nearest hospital room, right? Go to the nearest emergency room and you tell them, you know, what's going on, and so they can help you navigate what you need to do for your health first, right? And then, like, I work for an organization called RIA Incorporated, but we're not a house. We don't actually have a place they can go, but we do help with finding places for them to go. And every now and then, depending on the situation, and we have connections with other likewise organizations where we can help them get, you know, find some, you know, safety, right? Like like we can put them up in hotels, or we can connect them with other resources and services that we do a whole lot of stuff. We do a lot of case management. We do a lot of housing search. We don't have the housing search. We're connected with Polaris Project, and I think there's another organization that helps. Let me just look here on my phone real quick. It's called, my phone won't want to take its time, but there's an organization that we're connected with out of California. And what happens is, if we have somebody call us up and they're in a crisis and they need help, what we do is we call that organization that we're linked with, and we tell them what the situation is. We'll help advocate for them to help get them off the streets and get them to a safe place, you know, so they can move away from their trauma. Most of the time, it's 90% of the time, it's like it's really helping them get into detox first. Because, you know, you got to be clean and sober, you know, but a lot of them don't want that. So, you know, there's other organizations that say, okay, well, we'll help you get somewhere into Safe Night. That's the name of it, Safe Night.
Is that here?
No, it's an organization out of California, but they serve all over the United States. So you call there, you tell them what's going on, they'll help you, and we go from there. There's times when we link participants, or I call them my sister survivors, with domestic violence organizations, detoxes, hospitals, mental health units. I've had a couple who had to go to a psych unit because you get so distraught and you get so traumatized in what you're suffering that you want to kill yourself. And so I've been an ambulance follower for many of those things. And so it just depends on where they're at and what their need is, and we do our best, to definitely try to get them to safety and to get back on track and get their life. Mm-hmm.
So now, actually, here in our state, are you saying that there is no house?
Yeah, there's plenty of houses here. There's plenty. Well, not plenty, but there's quite a few houses across the state of Massachusetts. That help women who've been trafficked or exploited. You just got to go on the hotline, the human trafficking hotline, and call. So let me just say that here, because I should have had this pulled up. I should know by heart by now. I'm embarrassed. You got me off on. So let's just say here. Yeah, I know my colleagues are like, oh, girl, I can't believe that. So the National Human Trafficking hotline, let's see. Let's just do this.
So while you're looking at
that
up, so you said that the first thing they should do is to go to
the nearest emergency room, human trafficking hotline.
Okay. And that's a good place to start.
Right.
And typically, what happens beyond that point?
Then they'll go in and get like a workup, a medical workup, an assessment, and then they can go from there. So. So because we want them to go and see if they're okay, but sometimes if a lot are embarrassed and they don't wanna go.
Now, when you say okay, do you mean physically, mentally, sexual diseases?
Yep, all that. Mhm. Mhm. So they have a national. Let's see. We have a. I know it's 888. I don't want to say the wrong thing. National Human Trafficking Hotline.
We can give it to them before the show starts.
Yep. Okay.
Now.
Oh, got it.
Okay.
It's 1-888-373-7888. Again, 1-888-378. I'm sorry. 1-888-373-7888. 1-888-373-7888. That's the number. I'd be ashamed of myself, Lord. I'm supposed to have that at the top of my head. But I don't, because I do so much, and it's like, I'm used to just saying, for anybody who comes in contact with me that knows what I do, for Reincorporated, just to go on to RadiantInspireAct.org or ReaHouse.org and just look us up and the numbers there and do an intake. Once we do an intake, then we can offer you the services that you need. So when they call the organization that I work for, the person they talk to does a small assessment. Not too many questions, not too deep, right? And then we navigate from there what their needs are.
Now, what are some of the questions that is asked on this intake?
Have you ever exchanged anything like sex to sleep somewhere or to eat or something like that? Do you feel safe? We don't ask like graphic or deep questions. Like we don't re-exploit the person when they call on the phone. So I like to think our intake coordinator or our director of operations, like she's awesome. Like she asks us, sensitive questions just to make sure that they fit the criteria for our organization to serve. Because if they haven't been sexually exploited or trafficked, then we have to refer them out to maybe, because some people say, no, I never did that, but my boyfriend's beating me up and I want to get away. Okay, so then we might have to call a domestic violence organization. You know what I'm saying? So we refer them out depending on, what they need is. Sometimes they call and they don't have no exploitation or trafficking their alcoholic or addict, right? And so we just have to call it a detox, stuff like that. So it just depends on whatever. We don't ever hang the phone up and say we're not going to help you. We hang up. If we can't help you and give you services, then what we do is we refer you out to services that can help you. Mm-hmm.
Now let me ask you this: have you ever encountered during the intake process a woman may say, "No, I have not been exploited," but as you ask some questions, in reality, she has been?
Well, we can notice whatever we want to notice, right? But here's the thing: we can't say somebody's been exploited unless they say it. So, and until the person identifies as as being trafficked or exploited, especially over the age of 18, right? Under the age of 18, we can, of course, National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, we got to report that, right? But if they're over the age of 18 and they say that they're not, we can't say that you are. There's plenty of, trust me, I've had that happen, like where the woman's, and I have an LGBTQIA who's also that it happened to, right? And I just can't, I can't say to them, oh, you're exploited or you've been trafficked, but I can definitely ask other questions like, or share or be transparent and share something that perhaps will help them to kind of see the way, I was, the way somebody helped me to see what happened to me, had Audrey Morrissey not said to me that I was too young to know what I was doing and that I was naive and that I was taken advantage of and that I was exploited, I would have never known that. I would have always believed that I made a conscious decision to go and ruin my life and that it was all my fault. So thank God for that woman. She's a very near and dear friend of mine, and she always wrote me, thank you. I love you, Audrey Morrissey. You my girl. Yeah.
Now, you just talked about teens. What is the youngest you've seen in terms of a child being
trafficked or exploited? Oh, please! And we've seen them. I know I've seen them over my lifespan time, as young as like 10 years old, 7, 10, like that. Yeah, and yeah, we gotta really like human trafficking is a billion-dollar industry, right? And so, and it globally, right? But in the United States, I think we rank somewhere like number 3. Yeah, number 3. It's the third biggest thing after guns and drugs. It's the third largest
a lot of people would think that
crime.
That this does not happen here.
Oh, definitely in our backyard. Yeah.
This happens in other countries.
No, it's happening right here in the United States, right here in Boston, Massachusetts, honey, right in our own backyard. And social media is a trip, right? Because they got a lot of stuff going on social media, especially when COVID hit. Oh my God, it went bananas, right? And so I'm so glad that that it's lightening up, and so that people can get out and get the services that they need, because domestic violence is at an all-time high, human trafficking is at an all-time high, addictions and alcoholism is at an all-time high because of this COVID-19 thing. It's actually tripled the rates of human trafficking since COVID-19.
Now let's talk about, I know you travel, different places, speaking, being the voice. Talk about that experience.
Oh, well, most of my travel, honestly, is just research, really, I'm proud to say that, I've been to Africa, I've been to Paris, London, and other places, and it was just to get to see what it looks like, human trafficking looks like around the globe, right? And so I'm just honored to be like a part of the solution, and really my traveling was mostly like learning. But of course I'll raise my hand, I'll speak up about the different things. I've sat on a panel, I've been a guest speaker. My thing is running groups, running small, intimate groups. I like to do groups and workshops, and like I speak at a couple of places, like in Maine and New Hampshire and stuff like that. So I've done guest speaking, but I'm not a keynote speaker yet. I'm a motivational speaker, I like to think, but I'm definitely a group clinician, and I'm definitely, if I had to call out my greatest love, it would be doing what I do at Rhea House as a director. Once again, you are in tune to the best is yet to come. I'm your host, Seigle,
And our fabulous guest is Stacy Reed Barnes. Did I get it right?
Yes.
Okay. We are going to a break, but we shall be back.
Yes. I like you, Luke.
Guys, well, let me just share this with you. I cannot believe this. I don't know how much you all enjoyed this, but this was an awesome, awesome show. I know I said we were going to break, but guess what? My producer said it's been an hour. So we are going to wrap this up. I'm going to allow Stacy to part with a few words, and I'll totally wrap it up.
Okay. Well, I just want to say thank you for having me tonight. The best is yet to come. And to all the people out there who experience any kind of trauma, just know that you are not what happened to you. It's not your fault, and that you can be better for your experiences. I'm praying for you. I'm hoping that all is well, and just stay on the path. Keep the vision. Keep hope alive. All right. Talk to you guys later. Thank you.
Once again, this is your girl Steph, and this is the best is yet to come. Next week, we have another awesome show. It's going to be with Joseph Bennett at Yard Time Entertainment, so stay tuned for that. And as always, in closing, I bid you peace, love, and blessings always, because the best is yet to come.